as much as I can't stand Howard Schultz, one thing that I love about Howard Schultz is he's making claims about Medicare for All that's so bombastic, so disingenuous, that he's actually forcing CNN to do their job and take an adversarial position against Howard Schultz and speak out on behalf of Medicare for All. Because when you say things that are so stupid, if they don't defend Medicare for All from his attacks, then they look disingenuous. So, for example, he said that Medicare for All is un-American. A claim so stupid, seeing that 70% of Americans supposedly support an un-American policy, that you have to call him out for this. And that's exactly what happened. So in an interview with CNN, they asked him why he called Medicare for All un-American. And as you're going to see here, he moonwalked away from that position and he explained what he would do to improve America's shitty healthcare system. And you're going to learn that he knows nothing about policymaking. Nothing at all. And he certainly knows nothing about healthcare, in spite of what he insists is one of his most important issues.
Why do you think Medicare for All, in your words, is not American?
It's not that it's not American, it's unaffordable. So let me be very clear.
Because you called it not American.
Healthcare has been central to my entire life. We've just talked about that. The first company in America to provide comprehensive health insurance to part-time people. I know a lot about this issue. It's deeply in my heart. Now, what I believe is that every American has the right to affordable healthcare, as a statement. I also believe that the Affordable Care Act under President Obama was the right thing to do to provide over 30 million people who did not have insurance to get insurance. But now that we look back on it, the premiums have skyrocketed, and we need to go back to the Affordable Care Act, refine it, and fix it. In addition to that, we need corporations to have more skin in the game. We talked about that earlier, and we must have self-interest and the lobbying efforts of the pharmaceutical companies come to the table with a level of transparency to lower the cost of prescription drugs.
So the price tag on it, whether you look at the Urban Institute numbers or the Mercatus numbers, are $32 trillion for Medicare for All over a decade. But Senator Sanders says of his plan, yes, you pay more in taxes for it. The healthcare savings that Americans aren't spending to private insurers is $2 trillion. You say
this is not true.
So, first of all, the fact that a CNN host explained correctly so how Americans would save more money under Medicare for All, because even if our taxes would go up, well, we would no longer have to pay our health insurance premiums, which would mean that we'd all net save money. The fact that a CNN employee explained that when this network went out of their way to obfuscate and take Bernie Sanders out of context when he tried to explain this very same thing. I mean, it's heartwarming to see that. Because we have been trying to get the mainstream media to have a discussion about Medicare for All that's actually nuanced and thorough. But whenever they talk about Medicare for All, they frame it in this negative light because Americans, when you look at public opinion polls, they're against taxes. So they use that as ammunition to attack Medicare for All when they're not asking, why are Americans against taxes? Well, first of all, they're against taxes if it means they're going to have less money. They're in favor of taxes on the wealthy. But they're also going to be in favor of things that would increase their purchasing power. So if you're going to raise their taxes, but make it so they no longer have to pay a monthly health insurance premium, they're going to support that. Hence why 70% of Americans now back Medicare for All. But I do have to take some credit away from that host because she said what a lot of people say when it comes to Medicare for All and got it wrong. She said it's going to cost $32 trillion over 10 years. Wrong. That's not, people need to understand, if you're going to talk numbers with regard to Medicare for All, you've got to get it right. Our current healthcare system costs nearly $60 trillion. $60 trillion. All that 32 trillion number represents is the change in federal spending to state and local spending. So for example, currently, when they say, oh, it's going to cost $32 trillion over 10 years, what they're talking about, whenever you see that number, it just means that federal spending increases by $32 trillion. But as federal spending increases, state and local spending, private spending goes down. That's all that means. 60 trillion is the cost of our current healthcare system. According to a conservative Mercatus Center study, if we move to Medicare for all, it costs the American people 57 trillion. So I do have to take credit away, but, I can't give her too much shit for not being savvy enough to know that, because nobody else seems to know that in mainstream media. Now, getting to Howard Schultz, this is his plan. He says, quote, "We need to go back to the Affordable Care Act, refine it, and fix it." And he adds, "We need corporations to have more skin in the game, and we must have self-interest and the lobbying efforts of the pharmaceutical company come to the table with a level of transparency to lower the cost of prescription drugs."
Oh,
it's so amazing.
I don't even know if he heard what he's saying here. First of all, he says we need to refine it and fix it when it comes to the ACA. How? Well, he kind of alludes to the fact that, we need more corporations to have more skin in the game. We need the pharmaceutical companies to come to the table and sit down and all agree that, hey guys, we're going to be transparent. Okay, he fundamentally misunderstands healthcare and policy making with regard to healthcare. Because the reason why our healthcare system is dog shit is specifically because these for-profit health insurance and pharmaceutical companies are the ones that have all the say. If your goal, Howard, is health care, then you can't allow these for-profit companies with the fiduciary responsibility to increase shareholder value and make a profit off of us to come in, because that's a conflict of interest. You have a choice between two mutually exclusive goals. Either one, you are on the side of Americans getting healthcare, with healthcare being the main goal, the main thing you're trying to deliver with policy, or you're on the side of increasing the profits of these healthcare companies and health insurance companies. You have to pick one because they are diametrically opposed, and the fact that you don't know that shows that you have no idea when it comes to healthcare. You are so out of your league here that it is embarrassing that you'd continue to speak about this issue as if you know anything. Now, getting to the question as to, what does he say to Bernie Sanders' claim that Americans would save $2 trillion overall over 10 years if we move to Medicare for all system? He says, this is not true. What? It's not true? What do you mean? Now, part of the problem is that the host completely butchered that question because she framed it as, Bernie Sanders claimed this. No. Bernie Sanders didn't just claim that willy-nilly. Bernie Sanders based that assertion off of a Koch-funded Mercatus Center study that said Americans would save $2 trillion over 10 years. Now, that's a more conservative study. Other studies say that Americans would save $5 trillion over 10 years. So if you say, this is something that Bernie Sanders said, you give him wiggle room to say,
this is not true.
But if you say this is based on a conservative study, then he has to attack it in a more thorough and nuanced way. He has to attack it based on its methodology and whatnot. So she kind of messed it up when she worded it that way, but the fact that he just, it's not true. Yes, it is true. Stick to coffee, because that seems to be the only thing that you are aware of. But when it comes to policy making with regard to healthcare, you are clueless. The fact that you say corporations need to have more skin in the game, that tells me everything that I need to know about you. That you are fucking clueless and you don't even understand the crux of the issue with modern American healthcare. It's that these corporations have too much influence. The fact that you don't know that shows how dumb you are. But I'm getting too angry for nothing, because it's not like I have to convince you, because according to a new poll, 4% of respondents who had an opinion on Schultz rated him as favorably, compared with 40% who said they viewed him unfavorably. The poll noted that 42% of respondents said they viewed President Trump favorably, while 52% said the opposite. In other words, he's less popular than Donald Trump and is overwhelmingly unfavorable. Everyone hates Howard. I rest my case.
Subscribe if you like this video, folks. Mike's tremendous, and he's doing a really, really good job. Many people are telling me about how wonderful the Humanist Report is. Bigly.